Hey everyone, Paul Wilson here. So we're doing something a little bit different than the traditional live stream. I'm going to start calling these events live experiments. And the reason for that is I want to take a little bit different approach. I think in the past I've done live streams that have talked about a particular topic or whatever. In this case here, what I want to do is more of a deeper dive, if you will, into how to use Adobe Captivate or my creative process. I have to give credit where credit is due. Lita, one of my followers on the YouTube channel, as well as in the forums, started this out by posting an article on the eLearning live stream, or sorry, the eLearning community over at Adobe, and just sort of put a bug in my ear about sort of getting behind the scenes a little bit, understanding people's creative process. In this case, obviously, all I can share with you guys is what my creative process is, and hopefully you guys benefit by that. So I've already published sort of a rough draft of the first of these. Let me just open up my browser here and see if I can take you to my YouTube channel. Just bear with me a moment here. And I'll just share my screen with you guys. I'm going for the dark theme, it's kind of fun. Let's go to, hang on one second here. Let's go to my channel and take a look at what I'm talking about here. Obviously, one thing I want to obviously bring everyone's attention to is, if you don't already subscribe to my YouTube channel, I really encourage that you do that. So you're looking at it from my point of view here, but over in this area here, there would be a subscribe button. So go ahead and click on the subscribe. And also I encourage you to click on the notification icon, which looks like a little tiny bell, that once you subscribe, you'll click on that. And of course, you'll be able to receive notifications every time I do something like this that's live. But you'll also get notifications when I upload a new tutorial that might be a little bit briefer, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Here's the thing I wanted to bring everyone's attention to. This is the first video I did, and sort of inspired by Lita's suggestion. I did this live experiment with Google Fonts, and I started to record it without really knowing exactly what I was going to do with the recording. But other than just doing some very, very basic editing to it, I really just put it out there as it is. So, and I really thought, it's a little bit longer, obviously. It's very close to 30 minutes. But in that 30 minutes, I just sort of thought, what would be really cool is if we could get the material design icons, which are embedded in an actual font that Google makes available to everyone, in your e-learning course. So, in the same way that an Android application has certain iconography used for different functions and features, you could use that same capability inside an e-learning course. So I encourage everyone, if you haven't looked at this video already, please do so. It's quite good, I think. Again, it's very human. It's very rough and live, and it's not really going to be as smooth and so forth, because I really wanted to capture my process. A lot of people have communicated that before in the past. Have said, like, how do you do this? What is your thought process? What is your design process around this? So definitely want to try and share a little bit of that with you today. The other thing I want to bring to everyone's attention, and let me go ahead and share my screen again here, and that is for those at least in the eastern half of the United States or North America, you should really consider the Adobe eLearning Conference. And if I just type in Adobe eLearning Conference, it doesn't have a great website name. I apologize for that. Of course, that's not my fault. I'm just attending. I'm just participating. But the great part about the Adobe eLearning Conference is it will give you an opportunity to come to a completely free e-learning event in 2019. Obviously, there is going to be cost associated with attending it in the sense that, you need to get permission from your manager to take a few days off work. But also, if they're incurring those expenses for you, your transportation and your accommodation costs are obviously not included. So talk to your boss about that. There's certainly good resources about, how you can maybe write that email to your boss and get buy-in from them. But, this is the fourth time. This will be the fourth time and the fourth annual Adobe eLearning Conference in Washington. I've also participated in 3 Adobe Learning Summits in Las Vegas. And it's been a great opportunity for me to meet many of you face-to-face, but also, share some of my knowledge and experience with Adobe Captivate with you. So, check this out. Just do a search for Adobe eLearning Conference 2019, and you'll find this page. And of course, all the details are there. I won't go into reiterating that today, but again, I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me just take a moment to just take a look at the chat here. Obviously, to this side of your screen is the chat window, so you can put your comments and suggestions there, questions. I'm going to really be focusing on building this particular. I hesitate to use the word template because template's kind of a dirty word in Adobe Captivate, but the word will be theme. We'll call it a theme. And I have a couple of ideas in mind as to what I want to accomplish, and I just want to see if it's possible, to do those things. But looking at the chat here, we already have about 10 viewers on the live experiment. I guess I'm calling them now. Obviously, Happy New Year to everyone. I see a bunch of Happy New Year messages. Max is pointing out here, high interest in your channel. I work with e-learning courses. Unfortunately, I find it difficult to follow your videos because I do not understand almost any English. Sorry about that, Max. Maximiliano, am I saying that right? Hopefully you get enough from it, or maybe you can watch what's happening on the screen and get enough from that. And really good hip hop is saying, I'm here thanks to the notification bell. Excellent. Glad to hear that. And Lori's here talking about templates. Thanks for covering templates, she says. And Alexa's, of course, giving her 2 cents about that earlier live experiment video. So let me get rid of all this junk on my other screen here, and I'll go ahead and what we'll do is I'm just going to minimize this stuff here and we'll put the my Adobe Captivate on your screen for you there. So to give you kind of a background, so what I've done in the past with this sort of thing, how do I describe this? So with these live events that I've done before, quite often I'll show you a single thing or show you 1 or 2 things, or in the case of the AMAs, the Ask Me Anything, I try to answer as many questions as possible. Feel free to throw your questions in the chat. I will do my best. But we're going to really stay on point for this one here because, of course, in the past, we've kind of gone all over the map. But today, we're going to kind of focus on one thing. And what I've done before, and I think some of you may have seen this, over on my website, captivateteacher.com, if you click on the free themes tab at the top of the page, you'll see I've done a couple of different examples of themes. Adobe Captivate deals with templates a little bit differently. There used to be something called Captivate templates, and you can still use them, but some people don't like them too much because they don't really, they're kind of buggy in some cases. I don't really use them myself. I really focus on just building themes. So when you start Adobe Captivate from the very beginning, you're going to start off by choosing the type of project that you're going to be creating. I think in this case, we'll go with a blank project, but you could just as easily do this with responsive. Actually, you know what? No. The future is responsive. Let's go with responsive here, but many of the things I will show you will also apply to blank projects. For those that don't understand what a blank project is, it's kind of a nomenclature that kind of happened by accident, if you will. Originally, when Adobe Captivate first came out, there was no responsive projects. So when you were starting a new project, it was always a blank project. Now it actually means a non-responsive project. And I'm hoping that maybe in the next release or the release after that, they'll just rename this non-responsive project. Because what it means is that when I choose a blank project, I can choose a canvas size, a height, and a width for my project. Or I can choose custom, and I can input those numbers myself here. And then the course will remain with those resolutions, or at the very least with that aspect ratio, because you can publish a blank project or a non-responsive project to have scalability turned on, in which case it will grow or shrink depending on the size of browser that someone's attempting to view your course in. But for today, we'll go with responsive project because there's nothing to choose. It literally can be any size, height or width browser window, or height or width device screen size. So we'll just go with that, and we'll start by creating a responsive project. So what I have here, and of course I've not turned on the Pro interface. There's videos that I have, but others have good descriptions on how to turn on the Pro workspace. I don't mind using the regular workspace because I find that a large percentage of the work that I'm doing nowadays is teaching new or first-time Adobe Captivate users. So I want to give you the experience that you're going to have, when you start off opening Adobe Captivate. So when it comes to themes, a lot of people assume that themes are just these choices that are in this little icon on your toolbar here. And there's about a dozen or so of these themes, and you can choose a theme and it will change a whole bunch of different object styles in your e-learning course to match that particular theme. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this abstract theme, it's called. And actually, for fun, what we'll do is we'll just add some content in here. I'll just put maybe a couple of question slides. We'll do a fill in the blank, and that's probably all we need. So what's happening here is that there are characteristics that exist, and these characteristics in an Adobe e-learning project are object styles. And when you're creating an object style, it's for that type of object across an entire e-learning course. So you can see here in this particular example, there is a particular style, and I'll just zoom in quite a ways here so you can see nice and clearly. For example, this is the default question title style. Now, I can certainly change it. Let's say, for example, I wanted to use maybe one of the other colors that's available in my color palette here. Perhaps I want to use this green color instead of the blue color. But of course, I'm only changing it in that one spot. It's still going to be blue here, and blue on the quiz results slide. But one of the sort of foundational skills that I encourage people to start using is that when you start to customize a theme, which is essentially what I've done, I've taken the first step in customizing this theme. You'll notice that over in your properties inspector, you'll see the style name, and you'll also see a plus icon next to it here. And what that means is the plus indicates that I've modified it in some way, but I haven't saved those changes to that particular object style. And it's quite easy to do that. You'll see these little tiny menus next to all of your style names. And for those that are just in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that there. And if I click on this little tiny menu, I see a bunch of choices. I can create a new style. I can save the changes to the existing style. I can even take these changes and apply them to another style altogether. Or I can reset this back to its original look and feel. So if I just click Reset Style, it goes back to the original blue. Let's go ahead and make that change, though. I'm going to make it green in this case here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save changes to existing style. Now, not much happens except the little plus icon next to the name of this style has disappeared. But if I go and take a look at all my other question slides, you'll see that the title is now green on all of those slides. So essentially, I've updated the style, which is a part of a theme, to reflect those new changes. And you can do this multiple different times with different objects. Now, by the same token, all the objects have a certain place on your screen. So if you take a look here, this is part of a theme as well, but this change occurs when you actually work with the master slide. So really what a theme is, there's a couple of other components to it, but what a theme is the positioning of all your objects on your master slide combined with the formatting of all your different object styles. That's what makes up a theme. And building a theme, of course, is going to be probably one of the most important things that you do as you start building a new project for a client. So if you're a freelance instructional designer, like myself, a big part of what I do when I'm working on a new project such as this, if I'm hired by a client, they're going to provide me maybe a brand document or something along those lines that are going to give me those individual parameters that I need to set for the look and feel of a particular e-learning course. So in this case here, I could take an existing theme like this one here and start to make those changes. So like the green title is just one example, but also too, like where things are positioned. So if I go to my properties inspector with just the slides selected, right? And then I can select or click on the master slide view, and this is going to take me to my master slide. So I can start building all of these different slides that I'm going to need to create a typical e-learning course. Now, when you look at the themes that are included with Adobe Captivate, they've tried to anticipate certain needs, but of course there are literally thousands of potential needs for theme creation. I don't know if I would use any of these, to be frank, but you could start with this, or you could start with something simple. What I've done in the past is I've gone to a theme that is no longer included with Adobe Captivate, but it is available to you if you have a previous version of Adobe Captivate available. And I like it because it's actually just such a simple theme. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to navigate to the folder of a particular e-learning project theme. In this case here, let's take a look at where I'm going to need to go here. So I need to, first of all, I'm going to go to my PC, or this PC, if this is the case here. I apologize for Mac users when I'm showing something that's very Windows-centric, but there'll be something very comparable or equivalent on your side of things. My main hard drive here, which is my C drive, and I'm looking for program files. And I'm actually going to go back to Captivate 2017. No, not the voices. Under Adobe 2017. And I think it's been a while since I've done this. It's in Gallery, I think. Or maybe I'm not thinking the right spot. Themes, yeah, there it is. No, I'm mistaken. That's why it's a live experiment, folks. It might be in public user. Let's try there. Documents, Adobe. I really just thought when I hit browse, I'd show up in the right spot, but let's figure this out properly instead of wasting your time. So I'm just going to open up the type of file I'm looking for is a CPTM file. And actually, we want to get very specifically to my PC here. Star.cptm. This will tell me where those are located. This might take a moment or two. But as you know, a CPTX file is the format that Captivate projects are saved in. What I'm looking for are CPTM files, where they're located. I want a particular one in question. And, you know, maybe what I'll do, I don't know if I would get in trouble with Adobe for this, but maybe once I do find the correct one, I'll share it with all of you. I'll put a link in the description below, and then you'll be able to download just a nice, simple, blank project. If I can't find it for some reason, I'll just rely on one of the other themes and modify it accordingly. But what I liked about this particular theme was that it was so basic, it was so simple, and it was a very good starting place for someone who's new to theme creation. While we're searching for that, I want to talk a little bit about my idea. So here in Canada, we have the CBC. For those that are in England, it's very similar to the BBC. But here in Canada, it's called the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And so I've kind of done some screen captures of what some of the graphics look like in their nightly news program called The National. And I really like the look and feel of The National. I really like the grayscale, sort of monochromatic. It fits with almost any image. And I think this would be a really great choice for building sort of a templated e-learning course and have a lot of elements. So I don't have a specific goal in mind with certain slide creation. I just sort of wanted to match the look and feel that this particular news program has. So these are just some screen caps from last night's broadcast, just to show you, you know, and I just did this in Snagit using their YouTube broadcast. They're on regular television as well. And I just really like the simple, clean, I know I'm going to have trouble with this Gaussian blur type effect here, but I have some ideas around that. And, you know, hopefully I'll be able to come up with something that is close to this look and feel here. I'm having trouble finding this out, so I'm just going to, I thought I had an easy way to find it, but let's just go with this blank theme here. So I'm going to go back to a very simple theme. And let's return to the master slide. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you see on the master slide, just so that we are starting from the same page. So again, a very, very simple theme here. This should work fine. In fact, this might be the theme I'm looking for, because I may have used it recently, but that's okay. Before I do anything else, let's do this. Let's go Save Theme As, because you do have a Themes drop-down menu, and you can create your own themes. There is a specific location on your hard drive where the default themes are stored, but my recommendation would be to save your themes with your project files, because if you reinstall Captivate, you don't want to have to recreate that theme from scratch. And if it's being saved in the Program Files folder, it could get wiped out if you have to reinstall it. So I'm going to, for now, just put this on my desktop, and we'll just call this, I don't know, standard theme, something like that. Now, some people have asked me, Paul, this is a whole lot of time you're wasting and that you could be using towards course development. And I would argue that as we move forward, I'm going to show you some things that you're going to be like, oh my God, that saved me so much time. So it's worth spending maybe a day or two working on your company theme, or whether you're working as a freelancer for one particular company. It's worth spending a couple of days, maybe, depending on how good at this you get, working on this theme creation, because it will save you so much time later. So let's go to the master slide. Yeah, this is the nice basic theme. There's basically nothing here. Very simple, and you can build a lot from scratch here. Now, we are doing responsive design fluid boxes, so you'll see that certain things already have fluid boxes to it. But let's just talk a little bit about what's on this page first of all here. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit here. So there's always sort of a title master slide, usually a blank, like literally a blank master slide, which you should keep. That's a really good starting point for creating new slides. And then, of course, like bare minimum, you're going to have the 4 different types of question slides. Now, in responsive design, this last one here, which is known as a Likert question slide or rating slide, it's not actually compatible with responsive design. So if you try to do responsive design, you'll see that it squashes everything down till they disappear. But don't worry about that. It's very rare that you're going to use this particular style of slide anyway. And of course, then the last thing you have is your quiz results slide. And technically, everything can be created with these 7 or so slides. So up at the top here is this really large, extra large size slide here. Let's just go and get that to fit the whole screen here. And or maybe what we'll do is we'll do 100%, so it's a little bit smaller. I like seeing a little bit of my scrap area, as it's known. Anything you place on the extra large standard master slide here will appear on all other master slides. So if you had a company logo, for example, and it always had to appear for whatever reason in the upper left-hand corner of each slide, placing it on this extra large master slide will ensure that it appears on everything except the blank slide, actually. And so you'll see that there. Now, there is one thing that you can do is you can uncheck on certain slide types. Like, so for example, with your question slides, because of the other objects there, maybe you don't want the company logo to appear on those slides. So you can actually uncheck Show Main Master Slide Objects, and that will make that particular logo disappear. So this is useful if your company has that standard logo. It needs to be on as many slides as possible, maybe not on 1 or 2 slides, question slides. Generally, I'm not a fan of branding e-learning in that way, but that option is available to you. So let's start off by building, let's sort of build a master title slide. Obviously, this would be customized in the future, and you can do different things with that. And I'm going to loosely base it on this logo that we're seeing here. I won't use obviously the national logo, but I like the idea of this blurred background effect here. You can't quite do that in Captivate, but we might be able to do something similar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab an image that I can use, and maybe it's just a placeholder image for right now, but let's just go to what I use typically for images. I usually have one of two choices. I subscribe to a service called Storyblocks. They are not, they are not compensating me for mentioning them. I only mention them because you can get a subscription for their services for, I think it's about $150 a year. And the great part about Storyblocks is that once you pay that subscription fee, you have access to unlimited images. So if I was doing, let's say, I was doing training or designing training for the city of Toronto, I could find an image from their website here. And depending on my subscription, let me make sure I'm signed in here. Yeah, I am signed in, but I'm a part of the unlimited member library. So I have to check that off because there are some images that are for sale. Okay, not really great choices here, but so let's go to my second choice. And that's, of course, Adobe stock. Now, as a member of the Adobe, what's it, the ACP program, I don't even remember what it stands for, but basically I'm a professional contributor to the Adobe eLearning. I get, an account here, but you can sign up for about 30 bucks a month, I think, and that will give you 10 really high quality stock images. And of course, you can continue to purchase them once you go beyond your 10. But it's, it still works out to be about $3 an image, which is actually a savings over the regular prices of those images. So I do encourage using Adobe stock, and of course, the choice of images are pretty good. So I'm just going to do a search for the city of Toronto or the name Toronto, and I'll find something that looks really kind of cool, and we'll use that as our background image. I kind of like this one here. Although, yeah, let's go with this one. So I'm going to license this one and download it. Okay, and it's prompting me to save this. I'm just going to put it on my desktop for right now. And of course, I can then open it up in Photoshop, which is what I would recommend that you do. Now, even though responsive design is flexible in that you can choose different size screens and devices, you sort of need to start with a basic size, and with a standard desktop size, the size is 1024 by 627. You could, in theory, increase that, but I'm not going to recommend that you do that. So my creative process, and that's really what we're talking about today, my creative process is I try to work or manipulate my images before I import them into Captivate. Because, of course, if you have a course that ends up being hundreds of slides long, and you're using the maximum resolution, it'll look fantastic, but its performance is going to be very slow. It's going to slow Captivate the program down. And when you publish it, while the publishing process does optimize your images, it's only capable of doing so much. So you'll end up, not with, of course, the ideal loading time and things like that. You'll get performance issues. So right off the bat, when I go into the image drop-down menu in Photoshop, and keep in mind these similar processes could be done in lots of open source and free solutions. If you don't subscribe to the Creative Cloud, I do recommend that you do, but if you decide to go for the inexpensive alternative like GIMP, which is the sort of the free alternative that is well known. GIMP is the name of that software. It gives you a lot of the same functionality. So I'm going to look at the image size here. And this is opened up on my other screen, so I'll just move that over there. We're looking at 7,305 pixels by 4,000, my eyesight's failing me, 874. Obviously too large. So the first thing I usually do is I'm going to type in one of my two aspect ratios, in this case 1024. The height will be 627. That's the standard size in a responsive design desktop screen. So this is fine. If this was less than 627, I would change this number to 627 and then later crop the width appropriately, but this will work. So I'm going to click on OK. And as you can see, it's gotten a lot smaller here. Let me just bump that up on the navigator window here. And what I want to do at this point is I want to change the canvas size. I don't want to resize the image. I want to change the canvas size. And I'll bring this window up here so you can see that. So I have my width at 1024. If it doesn't say pixels over here, you can select pixels is what I would recommend if you're working within Captivate, but this might display inches or percent or centimeters or something like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this number to 627 so it matches the desktop size that I'm going to use. Now, depending on what's happening in this background, I may not want to crop it from both the top and the bottom. So maybe I only want to crop the top. So I would select, maintain this edge as the edge that I'm going to anchor to, or I may wish to do it this way. I think I'm probably safe to crop on both sides. Let's find out. And then I go proceed. That looks fine. So I'm going to just go ahead and save this. I don't have to do a save as unless I need that image for other purposes. So I can just close this. Save, and then choose whatever JPEG option. Again, if you're trying to maximize or minimize rather the size of your images, maybe go high instead of maximum, and that will add a little bit extra compression, keeping the file size nice and neat and clean. So let's minimize that stuff and get back to Captivate here. Now, on this particular slide, there are no fluid boxes. Remember, we're on the master slide. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock this title placeholder and just move it off to the side because I don't, oh, sorry. Go to my position panel and uncheck center align so that I can move it off the stage and into the scrap area. And let's go back and look at what I'm kind of basing my background on. So to create this slide, and keep in mind that I'm probably going to add maybe a begin button or a next button, maybe somewhere on here or maybe in the bottom right-hand corner. Anytime you're storyboarding your project, you want to think about how this is going to divide up into fluid boxes. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking fluid box, maybe divide this into 3 fluid boxes, and then maybe another fluid box down here, maybe 2. Let me think for a second. 1, 2. Let's do 4 fluid boxes from the top. So I'm just going to go vertical here and choose my 4 fluid boxes. And this particular fluid box arrangement doesn't have stretch to fill on both the vertical. First thing I'm going to do, and I've talked with Adobe about this, and there might be a change in how this is done in the future. but the default wrap option for my parent level fluid box and all my subsequent child level fluid boxes is wrap to next row. I actually don't want that. I want it to squeeze in a row or a column, depending on the circumstances here. And I'm just going to quickly go and change that on all of my fluid boxes for this. Remember, we're just working on a master slide, so this will affect any time I use this in the future with different courses. So I'm going to click on one of the fluid boxes and then click on the orange tab to select the parent level fluid box. That's where I'm at here. And I'm just going to be thinking about where I'm going to place things. So I'm going to leave a small amount of space at the bottom for, navigation controls. And I'm going to put this more or less in the middle. I'm just eyeballing it here, but you could get real tricky and say, oh, I'm going to make this exactly certain percentage by clicking on my position panel and typing in those numbers. In fact, let's do that. Let's go 24%, maybe 25%, and we can make this 35%. I have to sort of do these in the right order for this to work the way I want to. That looks okay. Let's make that 30. There we go. Okay. So let's go back to properties here and choose the parent level fluid box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the background of the whole slide with that image. So I'm going to choose image fill. I'm going to go to fill, and I'm going to click on the folder icon next to custom image, and I'm going to import this image that we've just cropped and downloaded from Adobe Stock, and this will now be the background of my opening slides. But I actually don't want it quite so intense. Like, it's a beautiful image and everything, but I don't want it to be 100% opacity. I'm going to lower that, and I'm just going to play with some settings here. 20 is too faint, I think. Let's try 40, and we'll just click away. I can live with that. Ideally, I wanted something that was, you know what, maybe I'm going to go a little bit more like maybe 60%. Yes, I like that. Now, again, when I'm looking at this image here, you see that the background of the middle has sort of a white area. Obviously, I can't achieve a blur effect. That's just not an option. I've thought about that. That would be lovely if I could just have a blurred out image. I think that'd be great. But I've selected the background, and my fill pattern is an image. But I can select my fluid box and actually have a fill pattern separate and a layer on top of that. So this actually leads me to an interesting point about creating your fluid box e-learning design. A lot of people criticize fluid box because they say, oh, you can't layer anything. Everything's going to be resized and have its own space. But if you actually use the fill options that are available, you can do some pretty cool layering stuff. But I'm going to, if there's time today, I'm going to kind of cover off another way you can layer with fluid boxes. I think a lot of people don't really know that you can do. Sorry, just got to wet my whistle. So let's go with a solid color, and let's go with the white effect, and 80% is actually pretty good. I think that's a good choice. And actually, I'm going to do one other thing down here. I'm going to actually make this a solid fill on the bottom. This is where my navigation controls will go. And I think I'll just choose like a gray color. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do. This might be 100% like that, but we'll see. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually divide this middle section into 3 fluid boxes. And we'll go horizontal here, and equal is probably not quite what I have in mind. Maybe. Let me think for a moment. Let's do this. So let's make this first fluid box. Let's go to my position panel, and we'll make that 20%. And make this middle one 60%. And that should leave 20% on this side here. So remember, I have my placeholder for my title. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to drag that. Now, of course, it's got unlocked from Fluidbox, so let me uncheck that. And I'm going to grab this again. I'm going to pop that right into the middle there. And I'm going to change the color of this title to white, actually. And what we're going to do is we're going to select that middle fluid box and have the fill background be 100% black. Or maybe we'll choose that gray color. I kind of like that gray color. So there we go. There's kind of our custom title slide influenced by the National. And again, you could get a little more fancy with things like font choices. Trebuchet MS is a safe font to go with because it is a web safe font. But if you wanted to, and let's actually have some fun here. Let's take this, and I'm going to show you a really cool trick with Adobe fonts that might be really interesting. I'm going to save this image. It's currently just on my Snagit editor right now, but I'm just going to save this to my desktop here. We'll save that. And I'm going to select this object and click on the typekit.com icon. Of course, Typekit has been renamed Adobe Fonts, which makes sense, of course. And I'm just going to click on OK, and we're just going to go to the home page here. And now, of course, I haven't done this since the name change, but there was a way where you could upload an image, and I don't know if that's gone now. Let's find out. Upload image to Adobe Fonts. We'll just do a quick Google search there. So they have a tutorial here. I won't watch the tutorial here. Oh, okay. So you do this in you can do this in Photoshop now. So let's try that. So I'm going to open up Photoshop. I'm going to open that image. And we just use the marquee tool to select the font in question. And we're going to choose the type drop-down menu and go match font. That's so cool. And it's going to find what it thinks are close examples, and you can choose one here. I think that Merriweather Bold is close. Let's go to that. Okay, so I haven't done that before. Let's try just going for that now. So I'll open up here, and we know the name of the font in question. Merriweather font. And which version do you think? Let's go with the Ultra Bold Regular. And we'll just add that to my Adobe Font account. I just got the notification that it's been added. May take a while to show up here. There it is. So now we have that particular font style. So I can go ahead and hit Themes, Save Theme As, and let's go to the top here. We'll just put this on my desktop. I'll give it a new name here. We'll call this National. I'll call it the Canadian National Theme. There we go. So I wanted to get into a little bit more examples, but that is, sort of the first step there. I've successfully saved that theme. The one thing I didn't do, of course, we'll continue. We still have about 10 minutes left here. What I'll do is, as you can see here, the default title Smart Shape style has that plus icon next to it. So I want to make sure I update that. So I'm going to save changes to the existing style. I could have also said save changes or create a new style based on this particular image. But of course, now that we're sort of done here, what I can do is I can exit the master slide view, select any slide that I'm using, and assign this particular title layout to that slide. And I can use this multiple times. So this will be the Canadian National Captivate theme. I like that. That looks pretty cool. And we have the different fluid boxes. And of course, you will not have the ability to delete any of these fluid boxes because, again, they're dictated by that master slide. But you can add objects to the film strip version of that particular title slide. So, for example, one of the things that we're going to need for this slide is a next button or a begin button, if you will. So let me just minimize. I've got too many. Oh, the camera icon. Okay, thanks, Todd. I just noticed that Todd was commenting Adobe fonts in the search shape on top that can be blurred to create the Gaussian effect. Alexa's asking that. I've done some research into that, Alexa. I'd love if someone could figure out a way to create a shape with a Gaussian blur effect, but I haven't figured it out. So, I'd be very interested in seeing if someone can figure that out, because I think that would make this really cool. You see how by the way, the responsive design totally works there. So I'm going to add a button to this bottom area here. I'm going to use a shape because I prefer shape buttons. And I'm just going to use a rectangle, but I'm actually going to draw it over here first. I'm holding down my shift key so I get a perfectly, oh, it popped in there anyway. That's okay. So let's get in nice and close here. And so using a trick from the first live experiment, I'm going to use the material design icon. And you should watch that video to see how you can ensure that the material design icons appear in your project. But we're going to just go and quickly create sort of a default button style. And I'm going to open up, once you've got a font installed, like the either the Font Awesome font, and I've got some tutorials on that, or the material design font, you can actually open up what's known in Windows as the character map, and then select any of your fonts from this list, as long as they're installed as a system font. And in this case here, I'm looking for material icons. And I really wish that Microsoft would make these larger. I'm just going to find something that will suffice as a next button. But you can see there's a lot of choices for things like reset buttons and pause. Let's go with that one there. I'm going to select that, copy it, and I'm going to paste it into this smart shape. And I'm going to say keep the formatting because this way I'll have the appropriate material icon down here. But let's do some formatting changes. So first of all, I'm going to make it a white color. Oops, I should select the whole thing. A white color. And let's go 50-point font, maybe. Make sure it's centered within that box. I'm going to make the stroke white, even though it's set to 0, just so I can see that a little clearer. Maybe I can get away with 60 point. Yeah, I kind of like that better. And I would recommend that before you save this as a new style that's going to now become part of your theme, let's go into State View and create additional states for it. Oh, but before I do, I apologize. I need to check that I'm using it as a button. Right, so, and now if I go into State View, there will be a rollover and a down state for it. And here's another thing. I wish Adobe would fix this. Anytime I go into State View, it just kind of jumps to the upper left there. So maybe actually the default isn't white. Let's make it like a gray color. And then if you roll over, it turns white. And maybe the down state will be slightly yellowed white, like it's glowing or something like that. So I'm going to exit this state here. Now, this is the style for, again, just always taking me to the upper left there. So there's my button. I'm going to have all my buttons in my course use the same style. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this. I don't want to save the changes to the default smart shape because I'm going to probably create other objects in this e-learning course that use the default smart shape style. In this case, I'm going to click and create a new style. And I'm going to call this material icon style. Okay, so if I was to duplicate this or create another button on this slide or a button on a different slide, I can apply that style without going in and doing all the work within the multi-state object view. I don't have to necessarily find my character size and choices and all that good stuff every single time I do it. So let's say, for example, I just want to create another button here. Let's just do another button for fun. And I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and choose that. And if I go to Style Name, you'll see Material Icon is already there. I can select that. But before I do, let's open up my character map and find another icon that we might need for maybe a title slide here. You know, maybe something like oh, we could call this a table of contents icon. So we'll select that and copy that, and I'll paste it in here. Paste it. Sure, it doesn't really matter. And what I can do now, of course, is check use as a button. But before I commit to that, let's first of all go material icon, and it'll apply all of those changes, including the color choices. If I go into state view, yeah, I'll see this here. The one that you might have to manually add at different times could be the visited state. I didn't create one for that, but that's certainly a possibility. But you can see now all these 3 different states have been applied to that button. And of course, I can have that. And let's just do some nice spacing here for that, those elements there, just so there's a little space around them there. So let's just do a quick preview of this project. Not published, sorry. So I'm pretty happy with these results. This is something that, will look, I think, quite nice. Let's take a look at this on a preview screen here. Let me just bump it up a bit so you can see it there. I would probably not have this play bar at the bottom here, but again, you get the rollover effects, which is nice. And this will work well across different device sizes. I'd love to hear what you guys think. I mean, this is just sort of how I build responsive design e-learning courses. So obviously, this is the first step of maybe 1,000 steps that would have to take place here. But feel free to throw your comments, your questions. We have I can give you a few more minutes here. We're going to do a full hour today, but just an example of how I would build sort of a master slide, which would then contribute to a much larger theme. Maybe in weeks following, I'll continue with the same project, and we'll build an entire theme together over the next few weeks. My hope is that maybe I can publish this when we're done, and you're certainly welcome to download it and use it for your own design. Customize it how you will. We'll definitely do that. And but feel free to jump in at this point. I'll just switch back to my webcam view at this point. And I'd love to hear what people think. Do you see the value in maybe building your e-learning courses this way by working on the master slide, working on themes? Did you learn anything? Did I waste your time? Give me some feedback so I can make these live experiments a little bit more interesting and a little bit more useful to you, because of course if there's no value to you, then I won't keep doing them, but I definitely would like to if you're getting benefit from it. So feel free to shoot me a question or a comment or anything like that. I'm happy to listen, and feel free to be critical too. Lori says, awesome, this is exactly what I need. Okay, Lori, well, I got your vote, so that's good. I'll continue to if I get more feedback like this, I'll continue to do this sort of thing. Please keep doing them. They are very helpful. From Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. So I think what I'll do is I'll kind of follow this theme. And I'm saying theme as in the style of what I'm doing. Like, we'll use the national Canadian broadcast. So I've been looking for something that I want to design that's fairly generic. So when clients come to me and say, Paul, we need you to design an e-learning course. These are our colors. We don't have a particular e-learning template. So rather than reinventing the wheel every time, I'd like to start with something that requires minimal changes on my part, maybe change the black to whatever colors they use. Todd says, this is the way to go. There is usually no time in the real world. The greater the starting point, the better. I agree, Todd. Again, what my experience has taught me over the last decade or so is that I would rather spend 2 days or 3 days at the beginning building a template that works for as many possible scenarios as possible, and then switch into rapid e-learning development mode. So if we have enough master slide templates that can work across a wide variety of different learning interactions or whatever it is that you're going to do with them, you can very quickly, like the last thing you want to do, you don't want to spend time designing buttons, when you need to be getting your projects complete, or slide backgrounds and things like that. If you have a template that's solid and working well, then you can just knock this stuff out super fast, because the vast majority of development is copying and pasting from your storyboard, or copying and pasting from maybe a PowerPoint that's being used as a storyboard, things like that. Let's see. Brett is saying, you make the fluid design technique more approachable. I found that frustrating when I try to design in that mode. Brett, my one piece of advice is, again, I've given this feedback to Adobe. I would like to be able to change or set my default wrap style in fluid boxes to what I use is typically squeeze in a row or squeeze in a column, because then it's a little bit more predictable, at least for me. I mean, maybe other people would disagree, but if I could set my default, then that's the first thing you saw me do when I created those fluid boxes, was to have them squeeze in a row. There are occasions when I would wrap them to another row. This wasn't going to be one of them, so I changed them all very quickly to squeeze in a row. So every fluid box on that page was squeezed in a row with, yeah, no, they were all squeezed in a row. And the only time I don't use it is that if I do have a situation where I have, you know, two objects on the screen, and at some point when they get so close together, I want this one to drop below the other. That's rare for me. That's the exception. Whereas with Adobe, how they've set up fluid boxes, they've set that up so that that's actually the rule. And I would prefer that wrap to next row would be the exception for me. So, and that's sort of my secret trick with fluid boxes, is to just kind of keep them simple, keep the layout simple, and hopefully that helps everyone out. And it looks like Todd is giving me a thumbs up. Keep going with this. This is great. So I think what we'll do next week, I have some projects that are coming up that obviously from paying clients that you know, are you know, that's obviously going to be my first priority, but I do love sharing with the community. Again, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. It's youtube.com/Paul Wilson Learning. If you hit subscribe and you click the little notification icon, you'll be notified when I go live and do these. But typically I do these Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know, just to continue with the notes here, you know, Brett is agreeing, you know, simplicity is the key, I'm finding. Thanks. Lori's also saying starting a new project from scratch has been very frustrating for me in the past. Using themes will be so helpful. Just didn't know how to create one. Thanks. And there's a lot more to it. And in the weeks to come, Lori, please join me on Mondays at noon, and we'll build this theme together as a group, and you'll see all the steps in the process. And I'll certainly share the theme when we're done. It'll probably take us just a few weeks. Maybe next week we'll focus on the question slides, building the components of the question slides out so that all that stuff is set up properly. And we'll go from there. So guys, thank you again for joining me. Again, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am going to be doing something very similar. We're going to be building our own e-learning course at the e-learning conference in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be providing a template with all of the materials to basically come back from the conference with an e-learning course you could literally publish. Pardon me. That's my lunch coming back. We're going to be building an e-learning course. It's a 1-hour session, so we're going to be jam-packed. I'm going to get a lot of the pre-work done for you ahead of time, but we're going to quickly build an e-learning course so that when you come back from the conference, one of the things that I've always found when I go to a conference is people, you know, my manager will come back and say, "So, what'd you learn?" And wouldn't it be great if you could come back and say, "Oh, well, while I was at the conference, we built an e-learning course that we're ready to publish to our audience right now." So that's my goal, is that you'll have an e-learning course. I'm picking a topic that's going to be generic enough that every company in the world could potentially use it. And when you come away from that session, you'll have download files that you can take back and the instructions to set it up for your unique situation and publish it out to your LMS and have a full course. And again, some of what you'll learn in these sessions, if you are attending the e-learning conference, will make it even more easy for you to build that course. You know, and again, be able to show your manager that return on investment by sending you to the conference and getting you the sharpened skills that you need to build those e-learning courses. So Again, guys, thanks very much. I'm going to sign off now and look forward to sharing some more ideas with you next week. Bye for now.